Hello everyone, welcome to my very first WICSO scenario. For this video, we're going to be taking a look at an empire scenario. This scenario will be for none other than the Dutch Republic, which will be forming an empire today. The Dutch Republic is a very historic country in the WICSO series. They've had many different forms, I guess you could call it, where they've controlled most of Europe. Like they've controlled all the way over here through parts of Poland. They've controlled down here in southern Europe. They've had Mediterranean access. And it'd be pretty interesting to take a look at what a Dutch empire would look like on this ideal WICSO map. Now let's get right into it. To start off, I will address that this map is a little detailed. We obviously have major cities, but I've also gone ahead and added military bases. I don't know if I maybe put too many, but yeah, I think this is a reasonable amount, at least for now, and we're going to be using it. So this will kind of be a representation of military power, like countries like the Dutch country and I guess France and the Iberian countries. They have a lot of military bases within them, whereas countries like the Swiss country here, it only has one. This Austrian country over here has six. But the Dutch, they have more than I'm willing to count. And let's get right into the scenario. Now, where do the Dutch start? They have a couple options. They could go after this country here, they could go after Switzerland, they could go after Germany, they could go technically after Austria, they could go after these two, France, they could go after England. But I feel like the country that would make the most sense is this country right here. Now, this country doesn't really have anything going for it, and its capital will be swiped basically immediately. These two military outposts will basically serve as no threat to the Dutch, as they're going to completely take over this country. Now, let's look at this very quick peace treaty. And as you'd expect it, the Dutch have completely annexed this country. And now, with this, they have perfect access to the Atlantic Ocean via the Bay of Biscay right here. And now they are a little more free to do whatever they want. And by whatever they want, I mean they're gonna go ahead and target a country that is probably a little stronger for them right now. Of course, the Dutch Empire, it slipped out. The Dutch Republic is buffed, so, well, they're gonna get away with this a little easier. But yeah, they're gonna be targeting Germany. Dutch forces will begin moving in the south, capturing these two military bases. Soon after this, they're going to move out from this area into this major city here. As well as this, they're going to target these two military bases up here, which they won't be able to take quite yet. Now, the Germans, they're definitely still outmatched here, but they do definitely provide a better fight than a lot of these other countries would. I mean, I guess their only neighbor, which would probably put up a good fight, is France. France is a very historic country. They've solidified themselves in this region. It makes sense that they'd be able to hold off the Dutch, because the Dutch, I don't think they've ever had control over this territory. I might be wrong. Heading back over to Germany, we're going to see this major city down here being captured, and a trend will begin to be set, as the Dutch will see a lot of success in the southern regions, whereas in the northern regions, they are a little slower. They're unable to capture either of these two major cities for now, and all military advances along this northern coast here have stopped completely. That's pretty bad, Germany. And now they're moving northwards and have taken another military base, and now your capital is in danger. So they're going to be forced to reallocate some of their forces out of this region, allowing the Dutch to make some gains in order to push back against the ever, I guess, growing front down here in the south. And they're going to see a lot of success down here. But it's going to come at a very great cost, as the Germans, they may have secured this major city down here, but with this, the Dutch just move into this next one here and link up their two front lines. Following this, they capture yet another military base, and the Germans may have made a mistake. They let the front unite into one. And this will see a lot of effect, as in the north, yet another military base is captured, and this one will be isolated. Eventually, though, the Germans will lose full control over this. It's at this point in time that the Germans will basically be like, yo, can we peace out? The Dutch will say, sure, but we want a little more land. We're gonna take that back, that major city, maybe military base, and then okay, we're gonna have peace with you. Now the peace treaty here is pretty simple. The Dutch will be annexing all of this western land from Germany here. This is a pretty healthy amount of land, and the Dutch are feeling pretty happy about their empire so far. The Germans, we're gonna see that their borders kind of have a few things in mind. They have these two major military bases within them still, this one and that one here. And these two major military bases are pretty important to the Germans, as well, they literally have zero major cities between them and the border of the Dutch. But now we're going to see the Dutch going out on a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a side quest, because we're going to see the Dutch launching an invasion into Brittany, which honestly, they probably don't need to do. The Dutch advance is pretty quick, and this country's death is pretty painless. Their capital will be demoted down to a major city, and yeah, I think that's all I need to acknowledge here, because that's basically all that happens. The whole country gets integrated, and yeah. And you may be wondering, how on earth does the Swiss country still exist? Well, they're not gonna put up much of a fight. They're basically just gonna get annexed. Yeah. Two more countries under their territorial grasp. We're gonna see them once again focusing on stuff that would be a lot more advantageous for them to go out to do, like invade this country down to your south. This country, which I'm gonna call Lyon, after the French city that's about where this military base up here is. Yeah, they're gonna be targeting this country. The Dutch advance comes from the north, immediately capturing this major military base, as all assets will be focused in the west. They will go ahead and take the capital of the country before kind of just gaining full control over the north. At this point, this country knows it doesn't have anything left worth fighting for, and it's going to go ahead and surrender. Now, looking at the Dutch Empire, they're looking pretty large. But now we're going to see something happening, and this something is probably bad for the Dutch Empire. I don't know if this would classify as an empire. I don't know if it's large enough. I mean, I guess it's probably the largest country in Europe. I don't know if Norway's bigger. Actually, no, this guy's definitely bigger over here. But it's one of the larger countries. So, what exactly is going to be happening? Well, this will be happening. We're going to see a massive alliance forming against the Dutch, as these guys have been pretty unchecked in their expansion. And yeah, guess what? They don't care about that. And they're going to declare war on Denmark up here. Now, honestly, what would the Dutch really gain out of invading the Danish country? Well, I mean, I guess more coastline, but you don't really border this, so you're probably just gonna not even annex the entire country anyway, so what's the point of invading it in the first place? Well, it may have some strategic advantages against a certain Norwegian country all the way up here in the Baltic Sea. But yeah, we're gonna see this country getting absolutely cooked by the Dutch, as they're gonna be kicked out of their mainland. Not so fast, says Norway, who will take Copenhagen Island. Cool, says the Dutch, who take this last island. But yeah, this will be the first treaty, I think, that will actually be pretty interesting. And this is what this peace treaty looks like. Denmark is divided into two, not really even, but Copenhagen Island will be given over to Norway, and the rest will be given to the Dutch. Now, where do the Dutch go from here? They could go after these two down here, but I don't know why you do that. They could go after the Circle Alliance, any one of these countries, Austria, Germany, France, but I don't think they want that beef. So they're going to be setting their eyes over here to England. And England is nowhere near as developed as England is in our timeline. So yeah, the Dutch will be having a field day here. But as we know historically in this region, this thing will not be able to be fully annexed by the Dutch whatsoever. Now, this peace treaty will be looking something like this, where this part of England will be annexed and the Pink Country is forced to move its capital up northward. And yeah, the Dutch are pretty large at this point, and it's going to go ahead and cost them, as we're going to go ahead and see the Circle Alliance adding a few new members. To start off, they're going to add this blue country in Italy. They're going to add England, who was just bullied. And finally, oh, okay, that's a big one. The Circle Alliance has just added a country who could really probably mess with the Dutch. And these countries really kind of surround the Dutch in a way that they're either forced to fight the Islam country, which they have no interest in invading because, well, mountain. And yeah, that kind of just gives them the Circle Alliance to fight. And they kind of want to take this fight. They think they can win. And I mean, it is their Empire video, so they're definitely going to win. But let's see how this war goes for them. Now, how on earth would this war start? Well, we could say they didn't know this country had joined this alliance yet, but I feel like that's not original. So we're going to see it actually being started by another country, not the Dutch. And that country will be none other than Germany. Germany will send their forces into the Dutch occupied area down here in southern Germany, as they kind of wish to reclaim their former lands. They don't like how the Dutch have just absolutely destroyed them. They literally kind of went out of their way to conquer Denmark just to get Norway mad, because they're not concerned with Germany whatsoever. And Germany wants to kind of get back at that. So they're going to go ahead and cut the Dutch off from Denmark, which will go ahead and allow for Norway to join this war, as they're going to go ahead and cut off the Dutch from the south and squeeze them out from the north, which kind of traps them in this naval area for any forces that were up here to basically be exploded. And yeah, the Dutch are kind of questioning what's going on, why you two attacking me? And the rest of the alliance is going to back up their friend in this war. France will make some advances into the former country of Lyon, capturing a few major military bases before they link up with the light blue country over here. These two, they're working together a lot, but the Dutch may have been preparing somewhat for this, and they will go ahead and launch their own invasion here, as they're going to go ahead and threaten the French capital right off the bat, and also threaten this major city all the way over here in the east. But that's not all they're doing, because they're also going to launch a very small invasion into this country here. And this, it's going to kind of distract them. They care about this major city here, but they don't think they have much to worry about because they know the Dutch will be a lot more preoccupied up here with Norway and Germany. Or will they? Because they are kind of targeting Austria, which has done absolutely nothing up until now. And yeah, oh wait, I see what they're doing. They're getting behind the Germans. And yeah, this whole southern German front will be forced to flee back into Germany, and now Dutch forces begin to push northward. Now let's get a quick head count of countries in this alliance, because some of them haven't done much yet. That includes this country here and this country here. None of them have really done anything, nor has Catalonia, or to an extent England. And some of these countries are gonna like die. And more specifically, I'm talking about this English country here, who literally was just at war with the Dutch, and they can't really raise an army. And basically, what we see happening here is all the land the Dutch just occupied is gonna basically just fall right back in their hands. Most of it. The English country will still exist in a much smaller form, but yeah, the Dutch have a pretty solid control over England here, and they probably won't have to worry about this front for the entire war. Next, we head over to Austria again because we see that the Dutch have gone ahead and secured the capital of the Austrian country, and they're going to go ahead and take these last two major cities, which will basically spell out defeat for the Austrian country. Now, with this guy out of the way, they're gonna kind of go out of their way to invade yet another country, and they don't really need to do this because they're probably not even gonna gain land out of this. But they're gonna target this Hungarian kind of country over here, and they're gonna basically force them into surrendering as well. And basically, what this does is creates an all out southern front for the Germans to focus on, as they're going to squeeze them up northward to kind of weed them and this, I almost said Kaliningrad, this Danzig kind of country out so they can solo Norway. And obviously, the Dutch would win against the Norwegians. But there's also this front, so I don't know how well that would work. We're going to see the Dutch beginning an advance from the south, capturing both of these major cities alongside that major military base here. And yeah, it's not going good for the Germans, and their capital is going to get captured. From this, the German state's gonna fall apart, like, entirely. No one can really do anything, and eventually we see it basically just being Norwegian forces occupying this land here, and, better symbolize that by actually coloring it in for Norway. And, yeah, the Dutch will now go out of their way to deal with this guy, and they're now going to reallocate a lot of their resources from this southern front up to this northern front to deal with the Norwegians. First, though, they gotta finish off the English country, who at this point has no shot of winning, and they will, of course, capitulate. But yeah, with the Dutch moving forces away from this front, the French will breathe a sigh of relief where their capital is. They're even gonna go ahead and launch an attack on this military base. But this military base will prove to be very hard to take, as the Dutch will hold on to it for dear life. But now heading over to this region here, it becomes apparent that the Dutch don't really care about this front all too much. And yeah, the light blue country will even kick the Dutch almost entirely out of their country, except for this small little bit up here in the north. But now we're going to see the true effect of the Dutch on the Norwegians, as they're going to, first of all, kick them out of the German country, and second off, they will go ahead and launch a very tough invasion of Denmark. This invasion is very costly and not really beneficial for the Dutch. They don't have any use in Denmark, really. I mean, I guess it grants them access to the Baltic Sea, but after this war, they're probably going to have that anyway. So, what really is the point of reclaiming Denmark? And so, a couple months will pass by, and the campaign that the Norwegians had in mainland Denmark will fail. But the Dutch will never be able to island hop over to this because their navy is a little focused elsewhere. And what do I mean by elsewhere? Well, I mean down here because they are navally bombarding France to death. And yeah, their former ally will not take this too lightly. They're going to take some forces from over here and they're going to reallocate them to this area here because they want to take this military base. They will. And once they do this, they're basically going to be home free. They're going to take multiple major cities, multiple major military outposts, and the Dutch are beginning to get concerned because why is this happening now? What's happening? And the Dutch will kind of brush it off eventually because they know they will win this war, even if Norway is absolutely bombarding the hell out of their northern coast. And so, yeah, the Dutch will go ahead and reprioritize themselves down to the south, launching a massive attack on this blue country here. The French will rush to help out their ally, taking this little bit of land from them. But, yeah, the Dutch will not be losing this front line, as this blue country is pretty weak overall, and they will fall. From here, the French will, they're going to see certain defeat, as Dutch forces will move back into many major military outposts across their country, as the French didn't really think to secure those, and the Dutch will basically reinstate their military presence here. Soon after this, it becomes a full sweep for the Dutch, as they're going to kick the French out of their country over here, and they're going to launch a massive assault on their capital, and eventually will be able to take it. And from here, it becomes an onslaught as French cities fall one by one, and the French, obviously, are forced to evacuate out of Dutch territory, leaving them just to this. And we're gonna see at this point these circle lines surrendering. They've lost, I mean, except for Norway, who still has occupied land, but they're probably not gonna gain anything out of that. Now, let's look at a peace treaty for this war. And this is the peace treaty that I've gone ahead and crafted. Basically, what we're going to see here is basically every single country that opposed the Dutch will be losing land here. In basically the Dutch's final, I guess, expansion, because this is basically where the video ends. First off, with the French, they're going to be annexing this small region that surrounds their capital, incorporating it into their empire, of course. Next up, they're going to annex this coastal region next to Catalonia, who is a little exposed. They're probably concerned. And finally, they're going to annex this small region over here in the center. Moving on to this blue country, they're going to lose all of their outer, I guess, shell to the Dutch. They're going to be reduced down to this small thing here. The entirety of Austria will be annexed into the Dutch, as well as this small part of the Hungarian country. As well as this, we're going to see all of Germany being annexed into the Dutch Empire. Moving on, we see that the Danzig country will lose their southern portion of land here. And finally, for the final expansion, the Dutch will be expanding into this little bit of land here in England. As, yeah, they're looking pretty chunky. And, yeah, this is gonna go ahead and do it for the Dutch Empire video, as they've gone ahead and proved themselves as a very strong country once again. They control a lot of modern-day France, all of modern-day Germany, all the lowlands, part of England. If this country were real, America might even be threatened by it. I don't know though. It's pretty strong. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope to do more of these videos in the future. This has been really fun. I'm probably going to make this into a short advertising this. I don't know. Maybe. I might be a little too lazy for that. But yeah, we're going to see. Anyways, once again, that's going to do it. I stream on Twitch. I don't stream mapping, so follow me there. I also stream YouTube Shorts sometimes, so you may see me if you scroll YouTube Shorts often. I usually stream games like Minecraft, Terraria, Roblox. So yeah, follow me so you don't miss those, and I'll be uploading more mapping content in the near future.